Chapter 5, Section 1 of Cup of Gold. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. Read by Kurt from Tucson, Arizona. Cup of Gold by John Steinbeck. A multifarious population was crowded on the beach at Port Royal. They had come to see the Captain Morgan who had plundered Panama. Great ladies dressed in the silken stuffs of China were there because, after all, Henry Morgan came of a good family, the nephew of the poor dear lieutenant governor who was killed. Sailors were there because he was a sailor, little boys because he was a pirate, young girls because he was a hero, businessmen because he was rich, gangs of slaves because they had a holiday. There were prostitutes with berry juice squeezed down their lips, and with restless eyes searching the faces of unaccompanied men. And there were girl children whose hearts mothered the scared little hope that the great man might just possibly look in their direction and find the understanding he must crave. In the crowd were sailors whose pride lay in the fact that they had heard Captain Morgan curse, tailors who had fitted breeches to his legs. Each man who had seen Henry Morgan and had heard him speak collected a group of admirers. These lucky ones had taken a bit of greatness from the contact. The Negro slaves, freed from their field work on this day of interest and rejoicing, gazed with huge vacuous eyes at the galleon riding in the harbor. Plantation owners strode about among the people, talking loudly of what they would say to Henry Morgan when they had him out to dinner, and what they would advise him. They spoke lightly and carelessly of him, as though it were their constant practice to entertain plunderers of Panama. Certain tavern-keepers had broached casks of wine on the beach, from which they gave freely to all who asked. Their gain would come later, with the thirst they only whetted. On a small pier waited the party of the governor, handsome young men in laces and silver buckles, with a squad of pikemen to give them an official appearance. The sea fanned delicate, unbreaking waves on the beach. It was late morning, and the sun a glaring crucible in the sky, but no one felt the heat. The people had eyes and feelings for nothing but the tall galleon riding in the harbor. Noon had come when Henry Morgan, who had been watching the beach through a glass, decided to enter the city. His stagecraft was not merely vanity. In the night a small boat had come alongside with the news that he might be arrested for fighting the enemies of the king. Henry thought the approval of the people would weigh in his favor. All morning he had watched the approval grow as the crowd became more and more excited. But now his longboat was lowered and the sailors took their places. As it approached the shore, the gathered mob broke into yells, and then a concerted, roaring cheer. The people threw their hats, leaped, danced, grimaced, tried to shriek conversation at one another. At the pier, hands were extended to grasp Henry's before he was out of the boat, and immediately he had stepped up. The pikemen formed about the official party and with weapons lowered forced a rough passage among the fighting, craning spectators. Henry glanced with apprehension at the soldiers who surrounded him. "Am I under arrest?" he asked of the cavalier who walked beside him. "Under arrest?" the man laughed. "No, we wouldn't arrest you if we would. The mob would tear us to pieces. And if we did succeed in the arrest, they would rip out the stones of the jail with their fingers to free you. You do not realize what you are to these people, sir. For days they have talked of nothing save your coming. But the governor wants to see you immediately, sir. He couldn't come here himself for obvious reasons." They arrived at the mansion of the governor. "Captain Morgan," said Governor Modiford when they were alone, "I don't know whether my news is good or bad. Word of your conquest has come to the ears of the king. Both of us are ordered to England." "But I had a commission," Henry began. The fat head and shoulders of the governor shook a sad negative. Now, I wouldn't mention the commission, Captain, if I were you, even though I myself did issue it. There are clauses in your commission which might get us both criticized. As it is, we may be hanged, but I don't know. Of course, there is peace between Spain and England, but no good feeling, none at all. The king is angry with us, but I think a few £1,000 distributed in the right quarters might placate him were he mad with rage. The English people is filled with joy over the conquest. Don't worry about it, Captain. Certainly, I do not." He looked keenly into Henry's eyes. "I hope, sir, that you can spare those few thousands when the time comes," said Henry officially. "I have tried to serve the spirit of my sovereign's wish, not the outward play of his politics." And then, "Surely, Sir Charles, I have enough to buy the king's favor, though it cost $500,000. They say the king is a good man and a judge of fine women, but I never knew one such not to need money." "There is another thing, Captain," said the governor uneasily. "Your uncle was killed some time ago. His daughter is here in my house. Sir Edward was nearly penniless when he died. Of course, you understand, we would like to have her stay here with us always, but I do not think she is quite happy. I think she chafes under what she thinks is charity. You will look to her welfare, of course. Sir Edward died nobly and was commended by the king, but after all, the commendation of the crown cannot be spent." Henry smiled. "My uncle would have died nobly. I am sure this uncle of mine made every move in his life, yes, even to the paring of his nails, as though the complete peerage were looking on, ready to make critical comments. How did he die? Making a short, fitting oration? Or with the damned thin lips of him pressed together as though he disapproved of death for social reasons? Ah, that man! His life was a fine, simple part, and he was very true to it." Henry spoke laughingly. "I hated my uncle. I think he frightened me. He was one of the few people I feared. But tell me how he died." "It is whispered that he groaned once. I traced the rumor and found that some servant had been hiding behind a curtain. He doubtless told of it." "Too bad, too bad. What a cruel shame it is to ruin a perfect life with an exhalation. But now I am not afraid of him any more. If he groaned, there was humanity in him and weakness. I despise him, but I love him for it. As to my cousin, I shall take her off your hands, you may be sure. I dimly remember her as a tall little girl with yellow hair, a little girl who played abominably on the harp. At least it sounded abominable to me, though it may have been quite good." Modiford came to a subject he had been wanting to broach. "I have heard that you met the Red Saint in Panama and released her for a ransom. How did that happen? She was said to be the pearl of the earth." Henry reddened. "Oh, well," he said, "it seemed to me that the legend flattered her. She was nice-looking, surely, and I don't say some men would not have been struck with her, but she was not the kind of woman I admire for myself. She was rather free in her speech, you know, spoke of things unfeminine in my opinion. Besides, she rode horses astride and fenced. In short, she was without that modesty we have come to look for in well-bred women. But as a mistress? Surely, as a mistress? Well, you see, I received 75,000 pieces of 8 for her. To my mind, that is worth more than any woman who was ever born." "That much ransom? How did she happen to bring so much?" "Why, on investigation I found that she was an heiress, and as I say, she was nice-looking, but still, the legend flattered her." Meanwhile, in another room, Lady Modiford was earnestly talking to Elizabeth. "I find I must speak to you as a mother, my dear, a mother who is looking to your future. There is absolutely no doubt that your cousin will look out for you. But would you be happy that way? Just hanging to his purse strings, I mean? Look at him in another light. He is rich, well-favored. You understand, my dear, that it is impossible to be delicate about this, and I do not know that it would be desirable even if it were possible. Why don't you marry your cousin? If nothing else came of it, you would be the one woman on earth who could not criticize her husband's relatives." "But what are you suggesting, Lady Modiford?" Elizabeth put in meekly. "Isn't it some kind of crime to marry one's cousin?" "Not a bit of it, my dear. There is nothing in church or state to forbid it, and I myself would favor such a marriage. Sir Charles and your cousin have been ordered to England. Sir Charles thinks a knighthood might be arranged. Then you would be a Lady Morgan, and you would be rich." Elizabeth mused. "I only saw him once for a moment, and then I don't think I quite liked him. He was excited and red, but he was very respectful and gentle. I think he wanted to be friends with me, but my father, you know how Papa was." "Perhaps you would make a good husband," she said. "My dear, any man makes a good husband if he is properly looked after." "Yes, it might be the best way out. I am tired of being pitied for my poverty. But with this new popularity, do you think you would notice me? He might be too proud to marry a penniless cousin." "Dear Elizabeth," Lady Modiford said firmly, "don't you know by now that almost any woman can marry almost any man as long as some other woman doesn't interfere? And I shall arrange matters so that no one will get in your way. You may trust me for that." Elizabeth had made up her mind. "I know. I shall play for him. I have heard how music affects these fierce men. I shall play him my new pieces, The Elves' Concourse, and God Bears the Weary Soul to Rest." "No," broke in Lady Modiford. "No, I wouldn't do that if I were you. He might not like fine music. There are better ways." "But you said those pieces were very pretty. You said it yourself. And haven't I read how music soothes men until they can hardly bear it?" "Very well, my dear. Play for him, then, if you will. Perhaps but play for him. Such things may run in the family, the love of music, I mean. Of course, you know, you must admire him, and at the same time be a little afraid of him. Make him feel that you are a poor, helpless little creature, completely hemmed in with tigers. But you must arrange it in your own way. You have a good start, for you may appeal to him for protection from the beginning." She sighed. "I don't know what we should do without protection. I don't know when Sir Charles would have proposed to me. The dear was frightened out of his life to begin. One afternoon we sat on a bench, and I positively searched the landscape for something to frighten me. We must have been there 3 hours before a little water snake ambled along the path and terrified me into his arms. No, I can't think what we should do without protection. Sir Charles has a man in the garden all the time looking for snakes. And do you know, I have always liked snakes. I had 3 of them for pets when I was a little girl." The next morning, Lady Modiford brought them together, and, as soon as she gracefully could, left them alone. Elizabeth looked fearfully at her cousin. "You have done great, terrible things on the ocean, Captain Morgan. Enough to freeze one thinking about them," she said falteringly. "The deeds were not great, nor very dreadful. Nothing is as good or bad as the telling of it." And he thought, "I was wrong about her, very wrong. She is not supercilious at all. It must have been her father, the devil, who gave me a wrong impression of her. She's quite nice." "I'm sure yours were great, if your modesty would let you admit it," she was saying demurely. "Do you know, I used to tremble at the tales they told of you, and hope that you were not in need or trouble." "Did you? Why did you? I didn't think you ever noticed me." Her eyes had filled with tears. "I have had trouble, too." "I know. They told me about your trouble, and I was sorry for you, little cousin Elizabeth. I hope you will let me help you in your trouble. Won't you sit here beside me, Elizabeth?" She looked shyly at him. "I'll play for you if you like," she said. Yes, do. Now this is the Elves' Concourse. Listen, you can hear their little feet pattering on the grass. Everybody says it is very sweet and pretty." Her fingers methodically worked at the strings. Henry thought her hands lovely as they flew about. He forgot about the music and watching her hands. They were like little white moths, so delicate and restless. One would hesitate in touching them because handling might ruin them, and yet one wanted to stroke them. The piece was ending with loud bass notes. Now it was finished. When the last string had ceased its vibration, he observed, "You play very precisely, Elizabeth." "Oh, I play the notes as they come," she said. "I always think the composer knew his business better than I do." "I know, and it is a comfort to hear you. It is nice to know that everything is to be in its place, even notes. You have eradicated a certain obnoxious freedom I have noticed in the playing of some young women. That kind is very lovable and spontaneous and human, of course, but given to carelessness and the interest of passion. Yes, as I become older, I grow to be taking satisfaction in seeing the thing I expected come about. Unsure things are distracting. Chance has not the tug on me it once had. I was a fool, Elizabeth. I went sailing and sailing, looking for something, well, something that did not exist, perhaps. And now that I have lost my unnameable desires, I may not be happier, but there is more content on me." "That sounds wise and worldly, and a little bit cynical," she observed. "But if it is wisdom, then wisdom is experience beating about in an orderly brain, kicking over the files. And how could I be otherwise than worldly? And cynicism is the moss which collects on a rolling stone." "That is clever, anyway," she agreed. "I suppose you have known a great many of those young women you speak of." "What young women, Elizabeth?" "The ones who played badly." "Oh, yes, I've met a few." "And did you like them?" "I tolerated them because they were friends of my friends." "Did any of them fall in love with you? I know I am not delicate, but you are my cousin, and almost my brother." "Oh, some said they did, but I suspect they wanted my money." "Surely not. But I shall play for you again. This will be a sad piece. God bears the weary soul to rest. I always think it is better to have seriousness with the lighter musics." "Yes," he said. "Yes, so it is." Again her fingers worked over the strings. "It is very beautiful and sad," said Henry when it was finished. "I liked it wonderfully well, but don't you think, Elizabeth, don't you think that sixth string from the end might be a little tighter?" "Oh, I wouldn't have it touched for the world," she cried. "Before we came out from England, Papa had a harp-man, go over the whole thing thoroughly. I wouldn't feel just right with Papa if it were tampered with. He hated people who fiddled with things." They sat silently after her outburst, but at length she looked pleadingly into his eyes. "You aren't angry with me about the string, are you, Cousin Henry? I just have deep feelings like that. I can't help it." "No, of course I'm not angry." She was so little and so helpless, he thought. "Where will you be going now that you are rich and famous and covered with honors?" "I don't know. I want to live in an atmosphere of sure things." "Why, that's just the way I think," she exclaimed. "We must be somewhat alike. Things come to you if you do not go looking for them, I say. And nearly always I know what is going to happen to me, because I hope for it and then sit still." "Yes," said Henry. "Papa's death was a great shock," she said, and again the tears were in her eyes. "It's a terrible thing to be left alone and nearly no relatives or friends. Of course the Moddyfords have been lovely to me, but they couldn't be like my own people. Oh, dear, I have been so lonely. I was glad when you came, Cousin Henry, if only because we are of one blood." Her eyes were glistening with tears, and her underlip trembled violently. "But you must not cry," Henry said soothingly. "You will not need to worry any more, Elizabeth. I'm here to take your trouble from your shoulders. I will help you and care for you, Elizabeth. I wonder how you bore the grief that fell on you. You have been brave to hold your head so high when misery was tugging at your spirit." "I had my music," she said. "I could retire into my music when the grief was too bitter. But now, Elizabeth, You need not even do that. You will come with me to England when I go, and you will be comfortable and safe with me for always." She had sprung away from him. "But what are you suggesting? What is this thing you are proposing to me?" she cried. "Isn't it some sin, some crime for cousins to marry?" "Marry? Oh," she blushed, and her eyes glittered again with her quick tears. "Oh, I am ashamed. You did mean marry, didn't you? I am ashamed." Her agitation was pitiful. After all, why not? Thought Henry. She's pretty. I'm sure of her family, and besides, she's rather a symbol of this security I have been preaching. I could be sure of never doing anything very radical if she were my wife. I really think I do want security. And besides, his thought finished, I really cannot let her suffer so. "Oh, surely I meant Mary. What else could you have thought I meant? I'm only clumsy and crude about it. I have startled you and hurt you. But, dear Elizabeth, there is no crime or sin about it. Many cousins marry, and we know all about each other, and our family is one. You must marry me, Elizabeth. Truly, I love you, Elizabeth." "Oh," she stammered, "oh, I cannot think of it. I mean, I am ill. I mean, my head whirls. You act so suddenly, Henry, so unexpectedly. Oh, please let me go. I must talk about it to Lady Modiford. She will know what to say." End of Chapter 5, Section 1.